Hello and welcome to a new episode of MTG CubeTube. My name is Sjoerd and I think 2019 has been the best year for Cube since probably forever. This episode is a Cube year in review for 2019. This year has been a pretty bumpy ride for Magic in general, with some low points like the printing of a bunch of overpowered cards resulting in many bannings, complaints about organized play and hard times for local game stores, but also with some high points like Arena really taking off, the new Pioneer format being a major hit, and many sweet new cards, especially for the best Magic format, Cube. In this video I will go over the main Magic related events that had an impact on Cube. These are mostly set releases, but there were also a couple of other quote-unquote events that I want to highlight, and I will conclude by giving you my personal top 10 Cube cards from 2019. In January, Ravnica Allegiance was released, and I was very excited to try out many of the new cards. Some played really well, but some cards that I had high hopes for were a little disappointing. This is true for almost every set though, so I shouldn't complain, but after the insane sets that came out later in 2019, Ravnica Allegiance does look a bit tame in hindsight. This set's biggest impact, apart from having Shockland reprints, is probably on Ravnica-centered cubes. When you're building a cube with only cards from Ravnica sets, Ravnica Allegiance offers a lot of good stuff to round out the various strategies. With now a total of 8 expansions set on Ravnica, this is easily the most attractive plane to base a cube on. My top 3 cards are Light Up the Stage, Hydroid Krasis and Prime Speaker Venifar. In a moment of madness, Wizards then decided to release a set focused heavily on Planeswalkers, with a total number of 39 of them, including 20 at Uncommon. Many of these are great additions to cubes of various power levels, and peasant cubes with only commons and uncommons now also having access to some Planeswalker action is pretty cool. The fact that these uncommon walkers have only minus abilities keeps them from being oppressive in an environment without rares and mythics. All the Planeswalkers in this set also have static abilities, which is a nifty new design space, but can in some instances be a bit problematic. So most of these statics are fine, although Teferis can feel a bit oppressive, but some have the problem of allowing the opponent to do a thing, like casting a card draw spell or a discard spell, or sacrificing a fetch land, only to then have that thing have no effect when it resolves because there is a Narset, a Tamiyo or an Ashiok in play. You could consider leaving these specific Planeswalkers out of your cube if you want to prevent such feel-bad moments. And not only did we get a bunch of sweet Planeswalkers, we were also treated to some very cool anime-style alternate art Japanese versions of all of them. Sadly, my cube is all English to accommodate players without encyclopedic Magic knowledge, but if you don't mind foreign cards, or if you're from Japan I guess, then these are just super cool ways to low-key pimp your cube. And apart from all the great Planeswalkers, War of the Spark also includes a cycle of gods, a cycle of epic sorceries, some great standalone cards like Blast Zone, Massacre Girl and Bolas' Citadel, and a bunch of good lower rarity bread and butter cards like Paradise Druid and D-Spark. Many of these are great considerations for various types of cube. My top 3 cards: Teferi, Blast Zone and Massacre Girl. For all cube builders out there, the spoiler season leading up to the release of Modern Horizons in June must have felt like Christmas came very early. Let's unpack the gifts this set brought us one by one. First, we were treated to the missing parts of the Talisman cycle. I like that these are not strictly better or worse than the Signets, and are different enough to make it an interesting decision which to include if any, like being slightly worse for control decks and enabling colorless mana for Thought-Knot Seer and friends. Then we also got enemy colored versions of Horizon Canopy. These Horizon lands are just great value and a nice new land cycle to consider when you're sorting out your mana fixing. Every color also got a highly playable mid-rangey value creature that plays very well with some of the things that those colors want to do in cube anyway. Urza stands out on power level, but the other ones are all great as well and are great fits for the more powerful cubes. And on top of that, the set is full of other strong cube cards across different colors and strategies. Prismatic Vista is the ultimate fetch land, Renin 6 is a ridiculous Planeswalker in the right context, and Fallen Shinobi, Giver of Runes, Hexdrinker and Force of Negation are cards that I am very unlikely to ever cut from my cube. And even at lower rarities there are some real goodies, spearheaded by Soul Herder and Magmatic Sinkhole. But that is not even all, because with Modern Horizons you can now also finally make snow a real thing. All you need to do is replace all your basics with snow-covered lands, preferably with the nice full art versions, the Eldraine Wonderland Secret Lair foils, or go old school with the Ice Age ones, to then unlock cards like Dead of Winter, Icefang Codal, Skret and Scrying Sheets. This is clearly not for every cube, but it's definitely something that you can do to make your cube a bit more different from others. My top 5 cards: Urza, Fallen Shinobi, Hexdrinker, Prismatic Vista and Yawgmoth. Core sets are usually not the most exciting releases, since the cards in them are often on the lowest end of the complexity scale and most of them are reprints anyway, but Core Set 2020 actually has some surprisingly nice cube cards. Rotting Registrar is a great graveyard enabler that doubles as a huge beater, Drawn from Dreams does a fine dig through time impression, and Golos is simply amazing, but I'll talk about him more when we get to the top 10 list. My top 3 cards: Golos, Rotting Registrar and Drawn from Dreams. August brought us a new Commander set. I honestly haven't played with any of the cards from this set and I only stumbled across them while doing research for this video. The set does look to have some nice cards though, and Scroll of Fate, maybe to manifest a Griselbrand and then blink it, and Grismold and Volrath all look sweet, and the other cards depicted here are maybe also worth a try. I guess. I really don't know. My top 3 cards are the ones I just mentioned. In August, Magic Online brought players the Grixis Cube, designed by Magic commentator Ryan Overturf. I think it's worth mentioning as a relevant event in 2019, because it showed to a wider audience that cube designs can vary wildly from the expected norm. This cube simply didn't play any white or green cards, and still managed to incorporate many different archetypes across the aggro, mid-range, control and combo spectrum. It was a great cube to draft and to watch others draft on stream, and I expect it opened people's eyes to the fact that a cube doesn't need to look anything like the modern legacy and vintage cubes that many are used to. And the last set of the year was Throne of Eldraine, that gave us the best Planeswalker ever printed, banned cards in multiple formats and a lot of sweet cards for cube. I think everyone knows by now that Oko is ridiculously powerful, and I'll leave it up to you if that means that you should or should not include him in your cube. Apart from Oko, Throne of Eldraine gave us yet another any basic fetch land, some food cards that, apart from Gilded Goose, are probably too hard to make work, cool legendary artifacts, a powerful green beast with too much text, 2 sweet non-Oko planeswalkers, a cycle of pretty playable utility lands, and some great other cube additions like Rankle, Emery, Fires of Invention, and plenty of cards at lower rarities that all have cube aspirations. But the best to come out of Eldraine has to be the adventure mechanic with a bunch of cube-worthy cards. Not only does this mechanic play extremely well, but the cards even come with a very pretty storybook card frame, and some of the art is absolutely beautiful. There's something here for cubes of any kind, from power to pauper, and adventures are easily my favorite new mechanic from 2019. My top 3 cards are Oko, Rankle and Brazen Borrower. The last notable thing to happen in 2019 was the release of Mystery Boosters at Magic Fest Richmond in December. Mystery Boosters contain all reprints and make for a great Chaos Draft-like draft experience. These packs will at some point also be available in stores, but for now you can only get them at Magic Fest, and these special Convention Edition packs all also include a playtest card. These are made to look like actual R&D playtest cards with a sticker stuck on an actual Magic card, and some of these are wild. Many of them are just quirky and not very playable, but some could be considered for cube if having weird stuff is something you're in for. Before I share my personal top 10 cube cards from 2019, a list that consists almost entirely of rares and mythics, I want to do a shout out to all the great new cube cards at lower rarities. I didn't check the numbers, but it feels like this year had more impactful commons and uncommons for Pauper and Peasant cubes than ever. First off, there are a lot of high quality bread and butter cards like Paradise Druid, Magmatic Sinkhole, Obnixilus's Cruelty, Witching Well, Ambrose Shieldbreaker, Light Up the Stage, Drillbit, Beanstalk Giant, Mob, Growth Spiral, to name only a few. Then there are the uncommon Planeswalkers from War of the Spark. Having Planeswalkers at these rarities hasn't happened before, and some of these like Narset and Saheeli have even proven themselves playable in the highest powered cubes. And finally, we got quite a few great enablers and payoffs for off-scene strategies in lower powered cubes. Cards like Soul Herder, Mayhem Devil and Evolution Sage are very powerful additions for cubes in which their respective strategies are supported. So now let's move to my top 10 cube cards from 2019, and let me first tell you my criteria for this while you look at a huge amount of honorable mentions. For this list, I looked at a combination of power level, uniqueness and play experience. For many people, Cube is all about playing with the most powerful Magic cards, and for some of the cards here that is the main factor, but for most the other aspects are all equally important. Uniqueness is an important factor because cards that give a color or strategy a new angle or additional depth, or that fill a hole in the curve, or simply have an effect that was previously not available, or maybe not available at the right power level, is exactly what I'm looking for when I evaluate cards for Cube. And of course, play experience is important for a format that I mainly play to have a good time with friends. At 10 I have the enemy colored talismans. I already talked about these, and I think having the full set of talismans is a great alternative to the 10 signets. But please note that you don't have to include the full cycle of either of these, and most cubes should probably shy away from that level of artifact mana fixing regardless. At 9 I have Yawgmoth Thran Physician. Free sacrifice outlets are always great for decks that care about these, and even if your deck or cube doesn't have a specific sacrifice theme, this guy can generate a lot of value and lead to fun and interesting games. At 8 I have Prismatic Vista and Fabled Passage. Good mana fixing is important, and having options that are useful to everyone is great. Previous similar fetch and basic lands were a bit low on power level, so having these as better replacements feels like a great improvement. At 7 I have Oko Thief of Crowns. Oko here also represents the other busted but low mana cost planeswalkers that were printed in 2019, notably Teferi, Renin 6 and I guess also Narset. All of these are great cards, and if power level is an important metric for your cube, then these just have to be considered. I gave Oko the spotlight here because he's the most powerful, the most fun to play with, all on top of having great abs. If this list was purely based on power level, these walkers might have been higher up on the list, but personally I'm not a huge fan of their play patterns in general, and I don't feel that pushing the power level of planeswalkers to this extent is good for the game. So here they are as a package deal at number 7. At number 6 I have Rankle, Master of Pranks. In many cubes, black is mostly a support color, leaning heavily on its ability to disrupt hands and kill creatures, with reanimation and sacrificing strategies being its main themes. Rankle plays into all of the above and can also support aggressive strategies, something that black often tries to do but doesn't always have the right tools for. For me, Rankle is very close to the essence of black's cube identity, and I'm very happy this card got printed. At 5 I'm cheating again by having a set of 3 cards that represent the awesome adventure mechanic. Not only are the storybook versions of these cards extremely pretty, but I just love the combination of reasonably priced interaction combined with a relevantly sized creature. None of this is too broken, but the flexibility and the gameplay here make these stellar cube cards. At number 4 I have Hexdrinker. A green 1-drop that is not a mana elf is a breath of fresh air, and this little dude can get out of hand really quick. This card is basically the love child of Figure of Destiny and True Name Nemesis, and a flexible card that can get aggressive, is a decent mid-range play, and acts as a finisher, is a very impressive package that is both unique and powerful. At 3 I have Fallen Shinobi. The art on this card always makes me jump when I catch the creepy dude staring up at me when I'm just browsing through a pile of cards, and that same jump scare happens when my opponent gets me with a ninjutsu. This unexpectedly jumping out, dealing 5 and playing some of your cards for free is just a scary thing to happen, and the power level combined with the visceral reaction this elicits from me make it one of my favorite cards from the past year. At number 2 I have Golos Tireless Pilgrim. If you haven't tried Golos in Cube yet, you really should. The ability to get non-basics with this is very strong, and it's not hard to get to 5 different colors of mana to start casting free spells from your deck. And even if that's not what your deck is set up to do, just getting a value land or fixing your mana while ramping you up to 6, combined with a relevantly sized body, is a good deal. That this card is fun to play is probably obvious, but it's also more powerful than it may look. And my number 1 is Urza Lord High Artificer. I don't even know where to start with this card. Urza is really all I ever want to do in Magic. He creates card advantage, can generate a ton of mana, he puts multiple bodies on the battlefield, and most of all he creates exciting moments. It's a pity that those moments involve shuffling, but at least here the shuffling is part of the build-up. I will never not be excited when I have an Urza on the table. And that does it for my Cube year in review of 2019. If there's anything that you think I have missed out on, or if you just want to share your own highs and lows of 2019 Cube, don't hesitate to leave a comment. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe, because that keeps me motivated to make more videos in 2020. For now, a happy new year, keep on cubing, and see you next time.